When we're thinking about multiple sources injecting or giving us information about the exact same destination, we have to be mindful that administrative distance comes into play. Administrative distance kicks in effect, when two different sources tell us the exact same prefix. So connected trumps static. Static trumps all the dynamic routing protocols. EIGRP trumps OSPF. And it's because the lower the value, the more trustworthy the source. We don't normally care about connected routes competing with us because, hey, if we're connected, we're going to believe that. And if we are connected erroneously, then it's certainly not going to be fixed with a dynamic routing protocol configuration change. But let's say you're looking at your routing table and you're maybe seeing a static route where you're not expecting it to be. Well, that can be because static routes by default have a better administrative distance. And so you could potentially alter the administrative distance of a static route. And the way that you do that is you issue the static route command as normally issued, IP address or IP route address mask next hop or exit interface. And then you tack on the administrative distance. The administrative distance defaults to 1, but in some cases you want to float that administrative distance above the numeric value of your dynamic routing protocol. It's called a floating static route. And so what you might do is you might add a few, let's say OSPF, which is 110, and you want to back that up with a floating static route. You could say 115 here. It would be better than RIP, but worse than OSPF. So it would exist as information for the router, but it wouldn't currently use it until such a time as the router loses the OSPF pathway and then the static route replaces it. So this is one of the ways that we set up backup routes in dynamic routing protocols. Another possible issue is one where we get into things like redistribution and modification of the administrative distance. What you can do is you can say that all of the routes from this source are going to be given this administrative distance. This is not something that I do regularly. And it's just because it's one of those things where usually there are better ways of going. But let's just do a show IP route OSPF, and let's confirm things like administrative distance. So administrative distance is 110. And it's for all OSPF information, whether that be external routes. This came to us from the default information originate command on, I think, R4. I don't think R3 is doing it. And so what we could do is we could potentially say all the routes that come in from this particular neighbor are going to have a different administrative distance. Let me do a show IP OSPF neighbor. And we'll just play around with this a little bit to get a sense of it. So on DSW1, and I'm going to, virtual links are affecting me here, so I want to do this on R1 because this could get a little hairy. I'm going to do a show IP OSPF neighbor. I want to be conservative here. So R1 and the routes that come in from R3 are going to be over gig 2. Gig 2, the router ID is 192.3.3.3. So let me show you the syntax. I could say distance. And then I say the administrative distance, let's say it's 130 for 192.3.3.3. So this is talking about the router ID of the router that is sourcing that information. Let's see how quickly that kicks in. So you can see that I just modified that. It's not normal to see OSPF with an administrative distance of 130, but you can affect that. And because this is such a powerful tuning mechanism, that power could potentially be the source of your issue, and it's good to get some exposure to how to affect that if needs be. And I'm going to remove that command because there's no way I want that to be resident in my configuration for the next demonstration. So, administrative distance can be manipulated for static routes and redistributed routes and routes that are part of the autonomous system, and I just showed you how to manipulate that with this command. And remember that the IP address that you specify here is router ID. It is not saying the subnets that you want to modify. If you do want to affect that, then you would get into access lists as well.